In the dim glow of pre-modern Europe, before the thunder of cannons and the crack of muskets echoed across battlefields, there was silence, broken only by the clash of steel and the whistling of arrows. For centuries, men fought with blades and bows, with catapults and lances, with the weapons that their ancestors had known. But somewhere in the shadows of the 13th and 14th centuries, a spark was struck that would change war, society, and human history forever. That spark was fire contained, focused, and forced down the barrel of the first firearm. The story begins not in Europe but in China, centuries earlier. The Chinese alchemists of the Tang dynasty, searching for an elixir of immortality, stumbled upon the volatile mixture we call gunpowder. A fire drug, they called it. By the 9th century, bamboo tubes packed with this black powder were hurled against enemies, spitting fire and shrapnel. But the real transformation came later, when metal replaced bamboo, and the idea of channeling an explosion into a single, deadly projectile was born. This was the embryo of the firearm. When Mongol horsemen carried knowledge of gunpowder across the Silk Road in the 13th century, the world would never be the same. By the late 1200s, Islamic scholars in the Middle East and engineers in Europe were experimenting with recipes of saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal. They built crude tubes of bronze and iron, known as hand cannons. These were heavy, clumsy things, sometimes requiring two men to fire, but they were terrifying. In 1326, the city of Florence recorded the purchase of ballistariis de cornudes, early gunmen with strange new weapons. The written record is one of the first known mentions of handheld firearms in Europe. The first true firearm, the hand cannon, was little more than an iron or bronze tube with a touch hole. A gunner would hold it under one arm, pour gunpowder into its mouth, pack in a lead or stone ball, and ignite it with a glowing match. It was unreliable, dangerous to its wielder, and crude beyond belief. But it worked. For the first time in history, a man could kill with fire launched from his hands. Archaeologists have unearthed such weapons, like the bronze hand cannon dated to 1288 in Heilongjiang, China, carved with inscriptions. One reads simply, "Year of the first era of Dade, the reign of Kublai Khan." This was not myth, this was history. The build-up to wider use came quickly. Firearms offered what swords and bows could not: raw fear and penetration. Armor, once the shield of knights and kings, was suddenly vulnerable. A crossbow bolt might bounce from steel, but a lead ball from a primitive cannon could pierce it. By the mid-14th century, mercenary armies in Europe were employing these handguns. Chroniclers described them as small cannon carried in the hands, spitting fire with great thunder. The climax came on the fields of war. At the Battle of Crécy in 1346, the English used cannons alongside their longbows against the French. Though the hand cannon was not yet decisive, it marked a terrifying glimpse of the future. A new sound joined the chorus of battle, the blast of gunpowder. The thunderclap of firearms was not just noise, it was psychological warfare. Horses panicked. Men froze. The world of chivalry, where knight met knight in shining armor, was crumbling under fire and smoke. The aftermath was profound. Within a century, hand cannons evolved into matchlock arquebuses. A simple trigger mechanism allowed a burning match cord to touch the powder, freeing the soldier's hands and making firearms easier to use. Massed volleys of arquebusiers changed the face of war. In Japan, the arrival of the matchlock in the 16th century shattered centuries of samurai swordsmanship. In Europe, the knight's dominance ended. Stone castles, once unbreakable fortresses, now fell to artillery. The firearm had become not a curiosity, but the master of the battlefield. The legacy of that first-hand cannon cannot be overstated. It sparked an arms race that reshaped civilization. Monarchies consolidated power with armies of gunmen. Exploration and conquest across oceans were fueled by musket and cannon. Empires rose and fell on the thunder of gunfire. And behind every musket, every rifle, every pistol, lies the memory of that first crude tube of bronze, lit by trembling hands, that spat fire into the future. Today, museums hold the relics of these beginnings, pitted iron hand cannons, their barrels blackened by centuries. Scholars pore over chronicles, piecing together the moment when humanity turned fire into a weapon it could hold. To witness one of these objects is to feel the weight of a revolution. From China's bamboo fire lances to Europe's hand guns, these were the seeds of a force that defines modern history. And so, the story of the first firearm ever made is not just about a weapon. It is about humanity's relentless drive to harness nature, to take the raw elements of earth, saltpeter, sulfur, charcoal, and bend them into power. It is about the end of one age and the violent birth of another. When that first gunner touched flame to powder, he could not have known that he was changing not just the battlefield but the destiny of nations. This has been a journey into the moment when history cracked like thunder, when the silence of steel and arrow gave way to the roar of fire. The firearm's first breath was crude, imperfect, even clumsy, but it was enough to ignite 500 years of transformation. And today, as we look back, we see not just the weapon, but the dawn of a world forever reshaped by the first fire launched from human hands. Thank you for listening to this story. Historical storytelling takes time, research, and care to bring to life. If you value this work and wish to support the continuation of high-quality history documentaries, your support makes all the difference.